When Jews are Jews and human beings are human, then there'll be no need to pursue the divine potential in things. The potential will be there and will allow itself to be elevated and to be redeemed and brought back to holiness. The Creator has an infinite, eternal investment in our being. So our being is much more significant than we ever thought. But it's without the me monster. It's without the capital I, the exaggerated I. So imagine if everybody woke up feeling that it's not about me. Imagine if all Jews suddenly woke up to this realization, it's not about me. The fact that they're Jewish would suddenly become so prominent and so meaningful, so descriptive of who we really are. I'm not just me, I'm a Jew, which means I'm here for a reason, and the reason is to be a Jew, not to be me. So that unholy sentiment, I gotta be me, and I gotta do it my way, and all I can be is me, and I am who I am, and that's all who I am. Turns out that that's all silly, frivolous. What I am is the purpose for which I'm created, the way in which I can serve God. If everyone woke up tomorrow morning with the realization that it's not about me, every Jew would be what God created them to be, and that's Jewish. And every human being would become what God created them to be, and that is moral. The result would be that we no longer need to work. The reason we need to work in order to live, in order to have what to eat, that came as part of the description that God gave Adam when he was expelled from Gan Eden. God said, by the sweat of your brow, you will eat bread. That's not the final and utopian condition. That's the fixing up process. In order to fix up the world, to make it Mashiachdik, you have to engage in difficult, demanding, distracting, sweat-producing. You got to make a living. But the reason that is so is because that's one of the ways in which we can elevate the world, by coming in contact with people, by using all your energies towards making money and then giving that money to charity, so that everything, including your perspiration, has become godly. Because it's with the perspiration that you made this money, and now this money is going to charity. So all of it, the efforts, the work, the intelligence, the missed sleep, the travel, the anxiety that you invested in making that money is now going to tzedakah. But once we are focused on serving God because the me monster is gone, that will no longer be necessary. The world will present itself, the physical condition, the material condition, the mundane, will present itself and ask to be elevated. You won't have to pursue it. You won't have to fight to get to it. and you won't have to break it down, break its resistance before it submits to holiness. So it could be that that third item, that in the days of Mashiach we won't have to work, is not a necessary condition, but part of the reward, the result, the outcome. When Jews are Jews and human beings are human or humane, then there'll be no need to pursue the divine potential in things. The potential will be there and will allow itself to be elevated and to be redeemed and brought back to holiness. What else do we see that is a little encouraging or inspiring? The mass media is creating a lot of problems. People are distracted. We hear too much stuff. We're bombarded by irrelevant information and images, some of them pretty nasty. So it's creating a lot of problems. But the fact that it can create universal problems is only an indication of how powerful it really is and how powerful the good that it can do is. When the world can communicate, when everyone in the world can be seeing the same thing at the same time, pretty scary thought. But if everyone had become of one mind, if everyone was interested in one subject, and everyone in the world is tuned into that one message on the internet, what a minion, what a congregation that would be. The trick is, get everyone to be interested in something really good and holy. But as a tool, the internet, the information highway is awesome. We just have to have the right frame of mind to know what to use it for. It can unite the world in a way that was never possible before. And that dispels a lot of mystery concerning Mashiach. How will people know? Who will tell them? Where will Mashiach come first? And how will the others get to know? And will we have to trust each other? Like not so long ago, you got a letter from overseas, that flimsy blue paper, the airmail letters, and you're told that Mashiach has arrived someplace in the world, and you tell your neighbors and they say, well, who sent that letter, and how do you believe him, and why do you believe him, and how do you know for sure? And so there would be a need for a lot of trust and a lot of faith, and there just isn't that kind of trust and faith. So how will Mashiach come? Will it take years, as it once did, before information can be verified and before the whole world can know for sure that something happened? Now with the internet, nobody has to believe anybody. It will all be streamed live everyone will see, not just hear. So that is definitely a messianic element. The ability to connect the entire world in one experience, in one thought, in one vision. Then there are the children. The most stunning of all prophecies is not that the dead bones will rise again. Science can accomplish that. Yea, and you resurrect dinosaurs. The really stunning prediction or prophecy is that children will bring their parents closer to God. That is stunning, because there is no explanation for that. How is that even possible? Tradition is passed on from the older generation to the younger generation. Torah was given 3,000 years ago, and it's been handed down generation after generation after generation. Now the prophet comes along and says, no, there's going to be a break in that chain. There'll be a break. And the chain will be reconnected, not by the parents, but by the children. How are the children going to have a tradition that they can maintain if they didn't get it from their parents or grandparents? That not only violates nature, it's truly unbelievable. And yet, it's happening. Children have never been so independent, so insightful, maybe call it desperate, but desperate for meaning, desperate for purpose, desperate to serve, not to be served. We're now discovering that children who want to be served are not healthy. They're not healthy, and certainly not happy. And the more they want to be served and the more they are served, the unhappier they become, the unhealthier they become. It's probably already the case that, as a rule, children are more idealistic than their parents. Not just teenagers, children. And that because of the children, parents are starting to seek true wisdom, godliness, to be able to say something to their children that would mean something to the children. Because the stuff we've been giving them, they're dismissing it. They're rejecting it. They're not buying it. Another Mashiach piece of evidence. So we have something very exciting to look forward to. If all of these things have their proper application, this is a great world. This is a great world. So in a really fundamental discourse that the Rebbe gave, I'm summing it up very, very briefly. The Rebbe says something like this. We've always known that Torah is precious to God. Therefore, those who study Torah are precious to God, give God pleasure. Mitzvahs are precious to God. Therefore, those who do mitzvahs give God a lot of pleasure, and they become precious to God. We have 613 mitzvahs. We do them, we try to do them. Collectively, maybe we get them done. And we assume that that's what makes us precious. The world assumes that too. Jews are the chosen people. They do a lot of stuff. They have a lot of mitzvahs. And those mitzvahs are God's commandments, God's wish, and those who do what God wishes become precious. At some point, the world is going to say, the nations of the world are going to say, if you had given us the mitzvahs, we would be precious. So now that we see how Jews turned out, we want, give us the mitzvahs so that we too can become precious or more precious. But that's a mistake. There are three things that the Torah obsesses about. Judaism obsesses about. Study of Torah, performance of mitzvahs, and the Jewish people. How do we know that these are three separate things? Because we are told a number of times that even when Jews don't study Torah and do not perform mitzvahs, they remain the apple of God's eye and will always be that way. Af al pi shachata Yisraelhu. A Jew is not Jewish because of what they do or what they study or how they obey or worship. A Jew is Jewish. We were Jews and God gave us the Torah. We didn't become Jewish by following the Torah. So what that means is something like this. It will be an awesome pleasure when God reveals to us the joy and the pleasure that he felt every time we studied a piece of Torah. When we read his words and tried to understand what he was saying, how much pleasure does that give God? We can't imagine. When Mashiach comes, we will see. We will see and feel that pleasure that we gave God by studying Torah. We also cannot imagine the pleasure God gets when we do a mitzvah. Any mitzvah. He asked for something and we did it. The pleasure in that is indescribable, unimaginable. But when Mashiach comes, we will see it. We will share it, or he will share it with us. But then there's the third, final stage of the perfection of the world, and that is we will be able to see and feel and share the pleasure that God has from us, not from what we do, just from us. Now, if we look at it from our perspective, if God shows us how much pleasure he gets when we study Torah, what will that do? How will that affect our study of Torah? So the study of Torah after Mashiach comes, hard to imagine how magnificent that's going to be. When we feel and we see and we share the pleasure that God gets from a mitzvah that we perform, how will we perform mitzvahs after that? Hard to imagine. It's going to be incredible. But on top of all of that, in our relationship with God Himself, when we feel the pleasure He gets just from having us, like a mother and a baby, it's not what the baby does. How will that affect our feelings towards Him? Harder to imagine. And that's the part of the world to come that we cannot even begin to describe. So we can describe the days of Mashiach. In the days of Mashiach, there will be no war, there will be no competition, there will be no animosity, and we won't have to work, and we'll all sit there pursuing the knowledge of God. We can describe all that. It's knowable. But how the relationship is going to feel, that unconditional pleasure, that remains a mystery until it happens. So the Gemara says that every prophet described the days of Mashiach. But what's going to happen after? No eye, meaning no prophecy, has ever viewed it, has ever seen it, and therefore cannot describe it. So, we look forward to Mashiach for reasons of our own. We try to imagine a perfect world with, the best of our imaginations. But there's something waiting that is much, much greater than what we think is good or high or perfect. We have no idea. So it's not going to be as good as we think it's going to be. It'll be gooder than that. Because our picture of good is kind of limited, almost pathetic. Like for most people, if there's no pain and there's no anxiety and there's no worry, perfect. Can't get any better than that. Oh, yes, it can. It can get a lot better than that, and it will. And that's what we mean when we say godliness. Godliness doesn't mean religiosity. Godliness means a goodness that God considers good, not our limited definition of good. So every mitzvah we do, every positive energy that we bring to the world can make that happen a moment sooner for the whole world. And with the signs that are there, there's a lot of encouragement. Of course, there's also the distractions. Mashiach will come by surprise. Why? Because there'll be camouflage all along the way. Every time something more of Mashiach is revealed, there's another curtain that goes up to kind of distract us, block our view. And that's why the Rebbe says you have to open your eyes and you'll see. Once Mashiach comes, you won't have to open your eyes. You won't have to do anything. But until then, we have to open our eyes because Mashiach is coming in gradual stages, and for every improvement, there seems to be a decline. Like with the internet. We should be very excited about the goodness that that can bring. But the bad stuff is so distracting. Craziness, the chaos between parents and children. It's such a good thing. But on the surface, it feels terrible. Like everything's out of control. What's with the kids? How will they ever become a mensch? But that's just distraction. All roads lead to holiness. The future is godly. Let's not be distracted.
If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic and you're looking for more information or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. I want to invite you to join us as VIPs, partners in our work, and join us also for a personal chat with other members of the VIP club. We talk about many things. There's an opportunity to ask, to respond, to make a comment, to meet the other supporters. And together we can really make a difference in Jewish life and in life in general. So join us. It's goodtoknow.org. Log in, call, make contact, and join us with the VIPs.